Hey y'all, welcome back to Twigs Time. If you don't already know who I am, I'm Whitney Twig. For today's video, I really want to do an analysis on a TV show. For my TV show, I chose One Tree Hill. Now in this video, I want to talk about what concepts go into the making of One Tree Hill, especially a specific episode. Those concepts I want to talk about are the mise-en-scène and the pathos that it uses. And then I want to talk about how this episode is so impactful to the rest of the One Tree Hill seasons. The episode I chose came from Season 3, Episode 16, With Tired Eyes, Tired Minds, Tired Souls, We Slept. Now, I do want to just give a little warning before I play, especially the scene. This episode is also called the Columbine episode, so we know that we're about to deal with some deep topics, and for that I'm sorry, but it's actually so important, so we just have to.
I didn't mean it.
I know. Go on, Luke.
Keith.
Luke. I love you. Now go. Why don't you just hand me that gun, Jimmy, and we can just follow him out of here?
I can't.
Well, I'm not going to leave you here, son. I'm not going to do that, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been there. I've bought the gun, and I planned on using it, okay? I've been there. And I want to tell you something. It gets better.
Not this. It can't.
It does, Jimmy. That pain in your stomach, that pain in your heart, it goes away. That voice in your head that's saying there's no way out, it's wrong, Jimmy. Would you please just believe me, it gets better.
It won't! Not after this! I can't take this back! I can't erase this! She's gonna die.
You don't know that.
I wanted them to leave me alone. I wanted them to like me.
I understand, son. It's what we all want. That's all any of us wants.
I'm not here. I'm not here.
Jimmy, please. It's gonna be okay, son. It's gonna be okay.
But it hurts. It always hurts.
I know. Please. Please.
I'm sorry.
No!
Does this darkness have a name? This cruelty, this hatred? How did it find us? Did it steal into our lives, or did we seek it out and embrace it? What happened to us? That we now send our children into the world like we send young men to war, hoping for their safe return, but knowing that some will be lost along the way. When did we lose our way? Consumed by the shadows, swallowed whole by the darkness.
He's gone, Danny. He's gone.
Does this darkness have a name? Is it your name?
Okay, so now that we've seen the big scene, I really want to talk about the things that went in to the making of that scene and how all those together made it as emotional and impactful as it was. First, let's start off with the mise-en-scènes. The big things I want to talk about are the lighting, the sound, and some of the camera angles that really bring this scene together. As you can see, most of the scene takes place in the hallway and has a very dim lighting. You can see light beams coming through from windows, but other than that, it's just dim, kind of moody. And I swear, every time I watch this, that the lighting gets darker and tighter as the scene intensifies. And I think that was done on purpose. Once it's just Keith and Jimmy in the scene, the once instrumental music turns into a song by Michelle Featherstone called God Bless the Child. Now, if you don't really remember the lyrics from the scene we just watched, I'll give you some of the verse just so you can get an idea of what's really happening. God bless the child who can't find their way home. God bless the child who is weary in soul. God bless the child who is broken and bruised. God bless the child who just wants to be good. Now, between this song happening during the scene and the lighting, you can just really feel how it adds to the intense sadness of this scene. The song clearly could be about Jimmy. You know, he is so lost and he's so hurt. He just doesn't know what to do. The shots during this scene are tight, shot reverse shots, you know? One going back from Keith to Jimmy, back to Keith. And I really think that that action, that choice that they made really helps the scene, you know, just bring out the intentness and the intimacy. And it isn't until Jimmy falls to his knees that the shot widens just a little bit. Another thing, I don't know if you caught this, but as Jimmy is turning the gun to himself, you know, he whimpers out, "I'm sorry." It's just for a split second. The camera action just slows down, almost to a slow motion. And then boom, gunshot, bright flash of light. And that bright flash of light, you may not felt this, but I feel that that light definitely represents, you know, dying and going to God. You might think that Jimmy is a bad person because he brought a gun to school and because, you know, he shot through a window, but he's not. You know, just because he made one bad mistake does not mean that he's a bad person. And I feel like that bright light showed that he did go to heaven. When people are talking about dying, they always say it's okay to go into the light. And that light is also used in other episodes of One Tree Hill. Next, I want to talk about the concept of pathos that this episode uses. It has a lot of examples, but specifically in the scene that I showed, these are the ones that I want to talk about. The actor who plays Jimmy exemplifies pathos just by his acting choices. You can see and feel how much pain Jimmy is in. He doesn't feel like he fits in. He feels like no one cares about him. And I've been there. I know exactly how that feels. The feeling of worthlessness, it really does hurt so bad. The thought of how much better people would be if you weren't around, but then also the thought of if you weren't around, would anyone really care? Jimmy thought that the way out was by having power, but instead he realized that he just frightened everybody. Like he says, they'll remember me as a monster. He later says that he can't take back what he has done. It can't be erased. And probably at the end of last episode or the beginning of this episode, you think Jimmy is the bad guy. He brought a gun to school. You know, I get that. But by this scene, you just gotta feel for the kid. The audience can understand how he was feeling because they might feel the exact same way, or they might have felt that way in the past. the quivering, the shaking, the thought that you can't go back. It's all so real. And the actor brings such vulnerability and realness to this character. It's just, it's mind-blowing. It's so emotional and deep and amazing. Finally, real quick, I just want to talk about the impact that this episode and this scene had on not only the rest of One Tree Hill, but on kind of real life too. For One Tree Hill, this episode, like I said, is in season 3, and they talk about it until the final season, which is season 9. That's so many years that they keep bringing it back. They keep going back to this day. You know, it just wasn't a one and done. It keeps coming up. And for real life, so many reviewers and critics and the audience, they still talk about this episode, and it's actually rated like #1 on so many websites. That's how you know that something was powerful to talk about, like the topics that they talked about, to deal with everything and the emotions. Oh, it was just so powerful. And that's, honestly, that's the biggest compliment you can get as like a writer or producer for a show. That however many years later, from 2006 to 2019, people are still ranting and raving about how amazing this episode is. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that you learned something from it and that you kind of think about, you know, what you say to people and how that impacts them. Have a great day.